Welcome back to the Mining Your Business podcast, a show all about process mining, data science, and advanced business analytics. I'm Patrick, and with me, as always, my colleague Jakub. How's it going, Jakub?
It's going well, drinking my cocoa.
Of course you are. Bean to bar, farm to fork, order to cash. In today's episode, we are talking to Elliot Clewley and Manish Sarkar from Cargill and their process mining journey in the chocolate and cacao business. How does chocolate go from the farm and into your hands? Listen and find out.
Where would we be if it wasn't for ICPM in Eindhoven? After Marlon Dumas and Jans Kasper, we have yet another pair of guests who attended the process mining conference and stirred the discussion with a success story from within their organization. The organization is called Cargill, and if you don't know it, well, let me just assure you that it's extremely likely that you have consumed something that passed through this company during your lifetimes. But why should I introduce the company myself when we have not one, but two guests who are currently employed there? Let me welcome Manish Sarkar and Elliot Clewley. Gentlemen, welcome to Mining Your Business podcast.
Thanks a lot. Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, if I recall correctly, in Eindhoven, Elliot started the discussion and the presentation. So why don't we this time in our podcast go the other way? And I will give a word over to you, Manish, if you could tell us and the audience a bit more about yourself and about your current role in Cargill, and especially how does your role actually relate to process mining?
Yes, for sure. So my name is Manish Sarkar, and I have been a global senior business process manager working for Cargill for the last 2 years. And I have a decade-long experience across operational excellence, supply chain, process management, and standardization across diverse industries across the globe as well. And it has been really a pleasure to work for Cargill since the last 2 years, leading the process mining journey for Cargill, especially for the cocoa and chocolate business within Europe as well as the other parts of the world. And it has been a really splendid journey in terms of the exercises which we have done in mining, which is also one of the kind in the cocoa and chocolate industry. Mm-hmm. And it has been really a great journey so far.
Awesome. Elliot, a couple of words about you as well.
Yeah, sure. So I am one of the global continuous improvement specialists that we have in cocoa and chocolate. Based in the Netherlands as part of our global continuous improvement team. We're really working in business operations and supply chain within cocoa and chocolate. But I've been in Cargill for just over 10 years, working in a number of different locations, different businesses, and different functions because it's a really big organization. Yeah.
You're already touching a point here, which I was about to ask next. I remember in the conference when you mentioned Cargill and you instantly said that not many people might know it, but trust me when I say that you have a certain experience with it, even though you might not be aware of it. Could you tell us and the audience what Cargill does and what it stands for?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the ICPM, I think about 30% of people put their hands up saying that they recognize the name Cargill, which wasn't a surprise to me. But what we also like to say in our discussions to introduce Cargill is that 70% of what you see in the supermarket has at some point been touched by a Cargill process or supply chain. So it's really business to business, which is why you don't see Cargill branding so much, but you see everything that you consume from the supermarket being touched by a Cargill process.
I see. And I know that you've touched on this a little bit, but just to give a little bit of context of what we're going to be talking about today, you guys are in the chocolate cocoa kind of part. So can you give us a little bit of context about where that starts and where that ends and kind of what the process is looking like there?
Yeah, so I can take that question. So really, We are a very small business, the cocoa and chocolate business. We're about 4,100 employees as a part.
Sounds pretty large to me.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to me.
Yeah, we're the largest or the second largest chocolate producer in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of Cargill, we're very, very small. So we're 4,000 out of 155,000 employees. But what makes us interesting and great to work with is that it's really a global business. So where the raw materials of cocoa beans and cocoa pods are grown, that really only happens in a number of areas like Ivory Coast, Ghana, Brazil, Indonesia. So there's quite a few small select places where cocoa is grown. And then really that's where Cargill does the origination, shipping it around the world, mainly to our processing units in Europe. And that's just basis history, really. So we have the ports in Amsterdam and Antwerp that really are where our plants are really focused. And then we process those cocoa beans into cocoa powder and cocoa butter. So that's really the melty mouthfeel that you have from eating some chocolate. And then we also make the liquid chocolate and solid chocolate that you'll see ending up in your Kit Kats and Mars bars. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then Elliot, actually, what's interesting is that in our second episode, when we introduced process mining to the audience, we used an example with a coffee bean that is going basically from the growth phase, when it's, you seed it somewhere, you plant it, and it just grows. Then it's processed, harvested, and so on, shipped into your local coffee shop, and then you just drink it. And this is the example that I used to really explain what process mining is. Can you tell us a bit more about like what challenges you as a let's say a cocoa producer and a chocolate producer face, and how does process mining really fit into your picture?
Sure. So in terms of process mining, we're quite new to it within cocoa and chocolate. But we definitely see so much opportunity of where it can be used. Because I listened to your podcast on the coffee bean, and it's a very similar process. So you have all of these steps from farmers' origination through storage, warehousing, and then you go into the shipping and processing operations, which are not straightforward. I could tell you that. And then all the way into the sort of end product. So what you'll see, and I think you picked this up in your podcast, is that there are a number of different case IDs that you can track. You can track when the beans were produced or cut from the tree, when they're dried out. Is that a process step? And you can go from those beans to being bagged or put onto a container. So the container might be the case ID for the shipping process. So there's a number of different ways where process mining can be applied. The biggest challenge is what's the best value for our internal customers. And this is why we need to really scope a process mining activity with the sponsor and really identify what is their need for the process mining activity, what they want to see.
Mm. So you guys have been at Cargill, and you've seen the industry kind of progress and grow and develop over the years. Can you give some context as to some of the challenges that you're facing as a company in this cocoa and chocolate industry that you are dealing with at the current moment?
I can take it. So one of the challenges which we faced on our side in our business was mainly about the order management process within supply chain. where we wanted to look around supplier reliability. We also call it on time in full. And there were some assumptions or some areas where we did face a lot of challenges, and we were having frequent discussions with the business teams. So challenges like there were around frequent changes or manual changes or touches on the order items and quantities, which was there in the order process, and there was a high rate of rework, which was quite obvious and leading to higher or longer cycle times and drag periods within the order management process. So that was really some of the high level business challenges which we were discussing with the business, and this led to really taking some concrete steps in terms of doing a process mining exercise to start with the data-based insights so that we can have some more detailed opportunities to go ahead and develop business case which can really help us reduce those challenges or mitigate those challenges in the shorter term. So that's how we started the process mining exercise for the first time in cocoa and chocolate business with one of the solution provider from process mining industry.
So with this focus on reliability, what was the value or what was the intended value you were trying to get out of this reliability initiative?
So in that direction, we were trying to achieve a lesser amount of rework. So we were trying to at least reduce the rework percentage by 25%. On the overall level, that would really equate to a lot of FTE savings. That's full-time resources or employee savings. And we also wanted to reduce the drag period, which is defined by the fact that we are not trying to prepone or postpone the customer orders based on our availabilities and based on the different challenges which we face in our customer services as well as our commercials department. So that's how we tried to improve our business case, and we achieved the numbers which we were targeting at the initial part of the mining.
Was there a specific reason that you went for process mining as a let's say an approach rather than to let's say some standard KPI measurements using normal the BI tools that are used in the market?
Well, the answer to that is we chose process mining because we were not really fully able to get all the details of the opportunities which we could have through our currently existing KPIs. We wanted to have a fact-based reality, and also we wanted to have the wealth of data and opportunity which can be revealed by process mining and which could add on to the existing KPIs or the set of key performance indicators which we already have within supply chain and commercials. So that was really the target, and also to move around along with the world changing technology which we are having with process mining.
So, Elliot, you already touched on this a little bit, and like the process is from the origination all the way to the transport, the shipping, to the processing and packaging, and then the delivery. So, when you use process mining or want to use process mining, where do you even determine where to start? Because you could really apply it anywhere in the process. How do you even pick a place?
Great question. So, as you mentioned, we really do go from bean to bar, or normally in Cargill, palm to fork.
Love it.
but specifically for process mining activities, it's really important to have that data set available. So if without having a data set with a case ID which is relevant to the customer and that timestamp, it's going to be a very challenging or impossible endeavor to really work with process mining. So then you would probably use other business intelligence tools to facilitate that customer request. So the availability of data, and we do have a number of processes which are systems enabled. So we do have this wealth of data available, which we can just tap into. And so far, we've gone with the ones that Manish has discussed, so order to cash, and we're working on Cargill transportation and logistics as well.
Oh, nice.
So having those transactional timestamps and events is really critical for your process. Really going from bean to bar, I think at the moment, what we would have to do is then segment it into specific process steps within that very big process, and then really scope them accordingly, making sure that we track what's relevant to the customer.
I mean, you also mentioned that the process is fundamentally huge, right? If you go from origination all the way to table, you said farm to table or farm to fork. And so if you imagine that as cases and multiple event logs, is it even possible for you to put this into one kind of process? Or do you think it is always going to be segmented for you? And if it is going to be segmented, how do you pick the starting point and the end point for a process? How do you determine that you're not going to be out of scope, that you're not going to be, taking too much into this process to make a big convoluted mess? Like, how do you really focus your goals of this process mining initiative?
So the first one, do I think that we could ever get a full bean to bar process mining activity? I think that would be very difficult, purely because of the different case IDs that you'd be looking at. You can either be looking at a specific bean, but also when you start introducing different bean blends, like you do with coffee, then you suddenly have a mixed case ID somewhere along in the process. So having those definitions, especially when you go from origin through to our customer, you have to be very clear on the definitions. And when you try to be clear on those definitions, it may or may not suit the customer's request in the end. So the business case loses its value in that sense. So I think having that sort of segmented scope view is really important, and that's really why we set up the Center of Excellence. That's why we work with our customers, really trying to define what they want from the process, and repeat it back to them, just to make sure that they are fully in agreement that this is the scope. Because what we generally see is that the customer can always request more, but then the value of process mining is lost because they're requesting more information, because they want to see different ways of slicing and dicing, whereas the real focus area should be, how is the process performing? Not, are we working on different segmentations, different regional issues? That the message gets a little bit messy if we accommodate too much complexity.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that point of Elliot, because we already noticed quite some past mining exercises that whenever we did the first iteration of the requirements for the business teams, we used to get feedback on 3 or 4 different areas to adhere or accomplish some more insight facts or details onto certain areas which has already been captured in the first requirement stage. So this leads to a lot of more iterations, maybe a second and a third one, which is adding to the scope. And that really doesn't really solve or doesn't really help the business case, which was defined at first. So we normally try to put a kind of governance around the process with a maximum of 2 iterations based on the first requirements set, which is given to us from the business. So that's how we try to deal with that problem, not really elongating the process mining exercise. And we can try and adhere to our accelerated continuous improvement methodology by doing it fast and quick for the business.
Yeah, I think both myself and Patrick, we know this problem too well with our clients when we just keep adding stuff, and it's just a never-ending exercise of iterations and iterations, because there's just always something else that you could be tracking and you could be looking at. And definitely an interesting topic, and we will get to the Center Excellence in a minute. I also wanted to just add that, we will also have Will van der Aalst as our one of the future guests, and where we will talk about this object-centric process mining, which really covers the problem that goes basically from having one part of the process related to the other one, where you have this end-to-end relationship between different case IDs that were mentioned by Elliot. So really something that's interesting, and it's slowly coming up the scene in academia. Regardless, let's proceed actually. And the next question I would have is that you basically then started to do process mining. And one of your first use case that you actually worked on was order to cash. Manish, could you maybe tell us a bit more, why was it order to cash? And let's say, what were some specifics for this process regarding, first of all, the decision why you started with this one, and then some specific issues that you were solving there?
Yeah, sure. I think we chose order to cash because it was quite a unanimous decision across the business leadership that order to cash is one of the first processes on which we are going to try on some automations and bring on some standardizations, because we are also getting ready as an organization for a newer ERP platform, which we are going to implement in the next 2 years. So we wanted to make sure that our processes are stable and standardized, as well as mapped in our tools, which we have. So once we deep dive into different processes across the business, we found order to cash as one of the biggest process where we can really concentrate. And when we deep dived into the different business challenges which we could find in order to cash, as I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of manual changes. There was high rate of rework, as well as a longer lead time, which we could already see and hear from the business leaderships and the different team leads with whom we talked with. And when we already started the data to extract the event log from the system, we could see some other issues as well, which is mainly like lagging of process governance, or maybe a lower sales orders to customer operator ratio, which was really putting a lot of pressure onto our customer service department. So these were some of the key issues where we thought like order to cash might be one of the first processes to start with our process mining journey, and then probably we can take it from there with defining the business case with the teams.
So it was a case of everyone looking around what you guys are doing and measuring what the biggest strategic issues are, and if you can really put a number on that and how much that would be worth in saving, and kind of scoping it that way. With that being said, were there any other processes that you were thinking about doing that you think would be interesting to do, or that you would really like to see in process mining?
Yes, there are indeed quite some processes in our pipeline which we intend to do process mining with. We have already done that for order to cash. As Elliot mentioned, we are also currently doing it for Cargill transportation and logistics team for their part of the transportation process. We're also intending to do this for GHG footprinting exercises, where we want to measure our carbon footprint across our bean to bar process, our farm to fork process. So that's something which we are planning. And also we are trying to work on other processes like spare parts and other maintenance and repair process, where we can conduct process mining along the different tools of data which we have got across the globe.
Now, if you were to give advice to a company that is also new to process mining and wants to do something similar, what would be your advice to them? Would it be, hey, do one process like order to cash and prove its value in this segment, and then we can develop it out? Or with you guys, was it more of a, we don't need to wait, we know this is going to work, let's just focus it on much else? Or was it also kind of a proof of value with you guys? Let's figure out if order to cash really gives us the benefit and the value that we're looking for, and then we can see if we can do it to other processes.
I think if I try to answer that from my side, I would really bank on two biggest assumptions, or two biggest areas where I would like to focus. So the first one would be try to select the process where you feel you have most of the problems coming from. It might not be order to cash, or it might be some other process like procure to pay or source to pay, as we call it. It might be any process, but it should be giving you a lot of problems which you want to solve in the near term. So that's the primary assumption which we took. And the second assumption or the second area where we wanted to focus is that that's the availability of data. So if you don't have any kind of timestamp based data, it is really very tough to do a mining exercise. And you would really try to get hold of a process where you have data availability easy for you. And that's how you can start small and then try to go for bigger achievements. So I would really say or summarize: try small, get small, and then probably dream big.
Mm-hmm. That's good advice that I think everybody should take to their heart. So then you started with the actual implementation of process mining. We all know how tedious and difficult and challenging it can be at times, but was there something specific that caused you some headaches, or was a particular challenging problem that you needed to solve while doing the implementation?
Well, I can take that as well. So one of the biggest challenges which we faced when we started mining our order to cash process was the conjoint of data. So I would say the data was not really coming on from one system. So our one ERP system was not able to provide all the data sets which were mentioned inside the scope and the requirements list which we got from the business. So there were other systems which was really secluded, and it was only integrated by bits of 2 or 3 characteristics. So we had to extract data from multiple systems, from multiple BI tools and multiple ERP systems in order to find out a blend of event log, which we could actually use in our process mining tool to get to the requirements which we were given. That was one of the biggest challenges which we faced during the start of the exercise.
And once you actually implemented the process, and whenever we have this, we have these 2 methods on actually looking into the data, and those are like exploratory and confirmatory approach. While the first one, you really just dive into the process and start looking for problems, and the other one that means that you already have some ideas or have some let's say, ideas about what could be going wrong, such as in your case, it was the rework rate. And then you just go into process mining, actually confirm the problem. That said, once you had process mining in place, were you just going there for those rework rates? And if yes, then have you had some other observations that you were, let's say, surprised by for the first time and that you didn't even know that they were existing?
Definitely, there were a lot of areas which we could automatically deep dive thanks to the process mining technology and the solution provider which we chose. So we initially went in terms of the discovery phase to look into the data event log based picture, which the data could draw in the process mining dashboard in terms of having how the order management process looks like overall backed with the data. But then also we got several other features of process mining which came into the use. For example, process variation, the loops in the process, the automation, the lead times, the process steps, and also we could deep dive into the compliance section, which I mentioned as the process governance, which we could get. So these are some of the areas where we went on deep diving and we saw some interesting results, out of which we at least took 2 of the results into the business discussion with the leadership team, and we could proceed in order of creating multiple projects out of the mining industry or the mining insights which we got from this exercise.
Manish, do you recall of some very interesting or strange or weird thing that you observed in process mining? Something that you were like, oh my God, how is this even possible that it's happening?
Yep. One of the incidents which we remember is about the drag effect. That's what we call when we really prepone or postpone our customer orders by a longer duration. We noticed that we had around 5 to 6% of our orders going or delayed by more than a month. So that was something which process mining showed us for the first time, and we never had this idea that it can be a higher percentage than 5%. So this is one of the areas or one of the kind of insights which we receive from process mining, and it is being currently worked on by the customer service departments in terms of yellow belts and green belt projects, which we are also conducting as a part of our continuous improvement agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the real powerful elements of process mining dashboard, because you have people involved in the process who suffer from the process not working optimally, either in rework streams, so the waste streams, or you can see the variations. So what do they do on certain different topics, and why do they do that? It's also a very human process most of the time on how to deal with certain things, especially with customers. So getting rid of all of those assumptions and just seeing what the data shows just eradicates all the discussion of why is a team performing the way it does, and how can we work with the data to then resolve those issues. So should we be focusing on the waste streams, or should we actually be looking at the what we're doing for customer or another team within Cargill? And I think that's what's really powerful about having the process mining dashboards viewed and explored with the team. And before they go into confirmation, they're really interested in seeing one specific case. They really go into the drill down very quickly when we show them the process mining draft. They always want to see, why is a particular case working like this out of 30,000? That's just human nature.
Yeah. So armed with this powerful technology and these valuable insights that you have now gotten, Manish, you also talked about just, that the surprise, hey, we have some orders that are delayed by more than a month. And with all this knowledge now on a sheet, on a dashboard, how do you even go about deciding, okay, what do we even do with this now? Like, how do we set up some sort of initiative that helps us tackle these problems? Because I think a lot of companies are struggling with the fact that, okay, we've got this knowledge now, so what do we do about it? How do we now go about fixing these fundamental issues, and how do we tackle them?
So we normally try to bank on the 4 different areas of value which we want to capture from the insights which we get from process mining. So we try to do a kind of, the first one, maybe the biggest one, which is the time savings area, where we want to save some time by reducing the complexity or by reducing the problems which is being there in the order to cash process. We also try to get these opportunities which we see from mining insights into converting them into yellow belt or green belt or black belt projects within the Six Sigma organization culture which we have set up. So it's tied to to a specific figure of improvement or a specific figure of benefit in terms of financials for each of the black belt or the yellow belt types. And then also we want to set up a dynamic process monitor in which we would try and update the data of process mining dashboards with the backend data, which is refreshed over the time of 6 months or 12 months, or based on the frequency which is needed by the business. So this is a very critical one. And at the end of the day, we want to drive some financial benefits as well from the process mining opportunities which we generate from the technology which we have. So these are some of the areas where we want to drive the value from.
Maybe a question. So after you have these findings, and let's say that you improve that, and you get you get rid of the problems that you were facing, and process mining helps you with that. What would be your case for even keep going with process mining? Because I know it can get expensive with time, and there is always some effort that you need to spend on the tool, that you need to spend on the developments, on monitoring and keeping things running. Why would you even keep going with this process mining? And I know that you said that you want to have this continuous loop, continuous improvement cycle. But what would be your biggest case for actually keeping it even after you solve the problems?
I think I can take that question. So we had this discussion internally with the leadership as well. And we gave it a thought really hard, and what can we do in order to make sure that we keep on running with our process mining agenda. And because we the first decision which we took when we started process mining as a group is that we won't be recharging back to the teams or the businesses who are coming up with process mining ideas or business cases. But at the end of the first year, we decided that we would kind of recharge it back to the departments who are coming up with the business cases and the areas of opportunities which they see. Uh, so they should be able to dedicate some of their FTEs or full-time employees inside for process mining exercises, as well as they should be able to take the recharge cost back to their business or back to their departments so that it doesn't fall into one bucket. And this is one of the strategies which we took on the costing side so that we can also drive the agenda further into different departments and people can really embrace this culture rather than getting a tool for free. So that's something which we decided that we would take this step in future so that we also can benefit. So all the other departments which are looking forward to using process mining and are really looking on to using the technology to develop improvements or to get financial savings, they should also get the chance to benefit. So that's why we took this decision in order to save some time from us as well.
And that actually brings us to, let's say, a last piece of our discussion, which is a center of excellence. And I know you discussed it also in the conference. And I think this is a vital piece of any process mining initiative if we want to end with a success, because it's one thing to implement and get the findings, but the other thing is to drive the change and have someone in the driving seat, be it a person, a team, or a whole department who is pushing for improvement within an organization. Maybe the first question would be, what is even your relationship within the process mining initiative between you, Manish, and Elliot? Like, how do you guys even communicate, and what are your roles in this environment or setup?
Sure. So, we set up the Center of Excellence when we started our process mining endeavors. And there we really try and translate business requirements into a realizable process mining plan, directly aligning with the sponsor. So by having that governance process in place, we can ensure that we prioritize the right exercise in the right way, with the right scope, and that scoping is so important. And our role, both Manish and I, are really to facilitate those discussions, but also align both the sponsor to the subject matter experts, because they are the ones really dealing with the scoped area, the details of the process. They know the process better than anyone. So we really need to make sure that what they are working with is then translatable to the COE, where we have our sponsors and our CI manager as well. So we make sure that we have the scoping of the assignments done, that the data is available and it's process mineable ready, or almost ready. Then we have the business case, and then we make sure that we have those subject matter experts engaged and available to then really make sure that the process mining endeavor is successful.
So when you were even going into the process mining, did you think that you will even be needing Center of Excellence, or was it more like a reactive? Then you suddenly realized that this will actually require some more work as we go, and then you just established it and started to figure things out.
For sure, it's something that we put in place pretty soon after going with our process mining activities. The reason being, it's great to have that sponsorship. So to make sure that this isn't just a one-off exercise, this is something that we do see value in, and we need to make sure that we communicate that to teams and businesses and other people in the organization. So it's make sure that we have that sustainability of that sponsorship, making sure that we have a clear roadmap. Is really important, because as you can imagine, with operating in 6 different regions, with a number of different systems implementations. It's an ever-changing infrastructure. And with that, we need to make sure that we are prepared with our processes, making sure that they're performing in the most optimal way. So this really links up to our overall strategy, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, and making sure that we have that governance and sponsorship is integral to making sure that we do see it as something not just for now, but also for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where we can improve our process, so we can discuss with our sponsor, the subject matter experts, and also gain that momentum from those business cases that Manish is so excellently doing.
I have a question. So once let's say your team finds a problem and identifies it, how do you go about pushing it back to the business to actually sort it out? Because this is sometimes a very let's say shaky dynamics between the two teams. One team on the one side that wants to improve things, and the other who might be resistant to change because this is how we do things, right? How do you gap this or bridge this gap from going from findings into actually implementing it with teams that might not be even aware that there is a process mining in place?
Well, that's also part of the Center of Excellence. So, as I mentioned, that we have those subject matter experts being freed up to make sure that they can participate and actually drive the process mining activity, because they are the experts. They know what is important and can guide those discussions. And so the ownership is really with them, but it's incredibly important to include them from the get-go. So we have maybe their supervisor or manager saying that this is a process that we want to work on. Do we agree? The SMEs or subject matter experts agree, and then we are really there to help facilitate and make sure that we look at the area in the right way. So it's very collaborative, because that change management piece is incredibly challenging if you consider it separate. Continuous improvement should be really working with the business, rather than flying in, advising something, and then flying off again. That's a huge part of the sustainability piece that we're trying to achieve, and also build our continuous improvement branding within cocoa and chocolate. I don't know if Manish, do you have anything to add?
I think your answer is quite perfect, so I would not really add much to that.
Okay. So if you think about the Center of Excellence you have set up, and you have talked about ownership and things like that are very critical, can you give us some other key points that are needed to running an effective and efficient Center of Excellence?
Maybe I can take that question, Elliot. So one of the key facts or key, I would say, points to cover when we set up our COE is mainly the governance piece, because inside COE, the first and the foremost exercise which we did was to create a pipeline of projects and then try to work out with the leadership or the steering committee to decide which of the activities or which of the exercises is having the first priority, or which can go as a second priority, because we didn't want to invest our time into multiple mining exercises at the same time, but we'll try to limit it to only 2 exercises at one time, so that our teams can also focus on those mining exercises, trying to bring out the business case benefits which we wanted to take that out from the processes which we're getting. So this is the first and the foremost rule which we have created, that there will be a process mining pipeline in place, which would really help us steer our agenda for the upcoming 6 to 12 months of time. So that's really important when you have a bigger pool of ideas on your table.
So looking at the Center of Excellence and the process mining initiative that you guys have, now, are there other parts of the chocolate and cocoa business that are looking at you guys envious staring at the things you have built and saying, "Oh, we want to have that. We need to have this," and are coming to you guys and saying, "We want to set up the same thing in the next years or so." And or is it also outside of that chocolate and cocoa industry part of Cargill that are saying what you guys did is really cool and we also want to do the same thing? What has the response been outside of your current scope?
I can probably take that question in part. So in terms of what other business units or other divisions in Cargill are looking at our efforts, because we're not the only business unit running process mining activities, and the reason why we're running them quite separately in this sort of pilot and test environment is really because we have a number of different systems that are not so widely used, and because we're quite a small business, we need to be a bit more agile. So in making sure that we can really tailor our service as continuous improvement to our business, we need to make sure that we are agile and can sort of leverage the systems that are currently in place. Ideally, having one system, which is widely used among Cargill, but for now, we're really in that transition period. So we acknowledge and also are really inspired by the other process mining activities that are done in other business units, and we do have this sharing collaboration that is also taking place. It's quite new because process mining within our organization is quite new, but that's really where we have those discussions. And then in terms of the need from other businesses or other functions within Cargill Cocoa and Chocolate, Manish could probably explain more, but it is an infectious desire to start using process mining on their activities.
Yeah, indeed, there has been a kind of requirement being generated from several business units, and we are getting to hear from our solution provider that they are also getting approached due to the work which they have done with our business unit for cocoa and chocolate. And that's why they are receiving huge response across not only other companies, but also different other business units within Cargill as well, as we do not have a global contract with our solution provider, so they can be approached, of course, externally as well. So this is something which they have also come back to us as a good and a positive feedback from the exercises which we have done so far.
Mm-hmm. So now knowing where you are and having all this experience and years, what you've been doing, where do you think you will go next as let's say, your team and also as an organization when it comes to process mining?
So where are we going to go next? So I think within our pilots that we've done, there's also the evolution of those pilots. So it's essentially going from having that one-off process mining effort to having a regular refresh of that data. So seeing how you can evolve in implementing those improvement activities, either reducing waste or variation. So are we improving how we work within that process? Having that, the third step really is that having the integrated process mining capability. So making sure that any incoming cases or invoices are processed in the most optimal way because we know how the process works. That's really the evolution of where we see pilots moving. Our role in that really depends on what the customer wants, so what our teams want, because we can't do things which they're not really seeing the value in. In terms of where we are going, we're really trying to expand our process mining capability within our team, but also making sure that we are keeping our eye open for those opportunities in the different functions and also areas in which we process the cocoa beans all the way through to the chocolate that we make. Manish, what are your thoughts?
I think I can add to your answer in two perspectives. So the first perspective being connecting our process mining platform to a kind of internal or in-house Cargill data platform where all the data resides today. And this has been one of our initiatives since last year when we wanted to connect our mining platform with a specific solution in place so that it can be the best and the easiest way of extracting data from our data lake or data warehouse, which we have got internally. And the second perspective, which we are trying to achieve, is of course the upcoming ERP implementation. So, how can process mining help support that implementation in terms of not only getting a know-how of the as-is processes, which are there backed with data, as well as how it can support during the hypercare phase after we do the the ERP implementation. So that's how are the two biggest areas where we want to drive some benefits from process mining as well.
Well, it sounds like you guys will have a lot of work coming in your way in the near future.
For sure.
I would just say has been a lovely discussion, and I'm very happy that you could have shared your opinions and your thoughts on how things were going, what were some of the challenges, and help maybe organizations that are not as far as you guys, guide them on their own paths. Before we wrap it up, I always like to ask our guests, like, where can people find you, and eventually ask you some question if they had any.
Well, feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. We're always hiring as well in this in this process mining space, but also within continuous improvement. Or if you're just interested in tasting cocoa and chocolate, feel free to reach out to us there. There's always hiring practices, but we will try our best to answer any questions that you have on process mining.
All right. Then Manish, Elliot, it has been a lovely discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and accepting the invitation to Mining Your Business podcast. And I can't really wait for this episode to air.
Absolutely. I really appreciate all the great work that you're doing. It's really pioneering stuff.
Yeah, really commendable. Thanks a lot.
That's awesome to hear. And for you, our lovely listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for being with us on this process mining journey. We really hope that it's bringing value to you as well, and that you are enjoying our work. If you have any questions, I would also say just reach out to us on LinkedIn. We have a special page there, Mining Your Business Podcast. You can also write us an email on miningyourbusiness@gmail.com. And we are open to any recommendations, ideas, or maybe guest ideas who you think would be interesting to hear. So please reach out to us with anything that you have on your heart, and we will be happy to reply you. So Patrick, Elliot, Manish, thank you very much for today's episode, and good luck on your process mining journey.
Thanks, gents. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.